Can you believe that BoJack Horseman is literally the animated version of that guy who peaked in high school and now can't handle the consequences of his fame? If you haven't watched it yet, brace yourself for the most depressing yet hilarious show ever. It's like if someone took everything wrong with life, put it in a blender, added a horse, and let it slowly spiral into self-destruction. BoJack Horseman is basically the living embodiment of a midlife crisis. Only instead of a sports car, he has a bottle of whiskey and a dark sense of humor that makes you feel bad for laughing at it. BoJack Horseman, the washed-up star who won't stop making terrible decisions. Can you believe that BoJack, the guy who used to be a TV star in the 90s, is now just this tragic, self-destructive horse who does nothing but make awful choices? Like, honestly, this guy could have had it all, but instead, he keeps screwing it up in ways that make you want to scream at your TV. He drinks, he does drugs, he alienates everyone around him, and still somehow manages to have this delusional sense of self-worth. It's like watching your uncle who thinks he's still cool at 50, but he's a train wreck who keeps making bad decisions. Like, every time BoJack tries to fix his life, it's like watching someone try to put out a fire by throwing gasoline on it. Dude's hopeless, but that's why we love him, right? It's like a car crash you can't look away from. You want him to get better, but deep down you know he's probably too far gone. Diane Gwynn, the one who got out, but not really. And then there's Diane Gwynn, the progressive intellectual who is supposed to be the one good influence on BoJack. Can you believe this woman thought she could save him? She's like the token level-headed character who's constantly trying to hold everyone together, but honestly, she's too smart for this world. The whole time, she's trying to make sense of her messed up life and deciding whether her career and values are worth it, while dealing with BoJack's mess. The poor girl literally marries Mr. Peanut Butter, and let's face it, she deserves a medal for surviving that. Can you believe that she thought her relationship was going to be different? But honestly, it's not surprising when your husband is a golden retriever who acts like a clueless, naive puppy. Like, Diane, sweetie, what were you expecting? Mr. Peanut Butter, the golden retriever who won't stop smiling. Speaking of Mr. Peanut Butter, this guy's basically the dog version of the guy who always pretends everything's fine, even when his world's falling apart. Like, can you believe he's living in a constant state of delusion? Everything's always great with him. Even though his life is a mess, he's married to Diane and somehow doesn't realize that their marriage is falling apart. He's got that everything's fine attitude, which makes him almost impossible to hate. But at the same time, you want to yell at him like, dude, wake up. He's like that guy who's always late to the party, showing up with a smile, telling everyone that he's just doing great, even though his life is falling apart like a bad high school play. Honestly, I don't know how he survives, probably on pure oblivious positivity. Todd Chavez, the human disaster who can't get his life together. Then there's Todd Chavez, who is basically the ultimate example of someone who doesn't have a single clue what they're doing with their life, and it's hilarious. Can you believe that Todd, the walking disaster, constantly comes up with ridiculous business ideas that never go anywhere? This guy literally invented disco nachos and thought he was going to be a millionaire. Like, can you imagine putting your faith into a guy who's clearly one bad decision away from a full-on breakdown? It's like watching a puppy try to run a Fortune 500 company. He can't even keep his one job as a male nanny together, and yet somehow, he's the only character who doesn't completely implode. It's so tragic it's funny, and you can't help but root for him, even though you know he's probably the cause of half the problems on the show. The show's basic plot? A mind-boggling roller coaster of emotional breakdown. BoJack Horseman isn't just about one horse and his disastrous life choices. It's about an entire group of messed-up characters trying to survive in a world where nothing makes sense, and everyone's just trying to get by. Each episode drags you through BoJack's personal life where he destroys relationships, ruins careers, and then wonders why he's still so sad. And honestly, you might start laughing at how absurdly stupid BoJack's decisions are. But then the show hits you with a brutal gut punch of reality, making you remember that these are real people. Well, animated people, dealing with stuff like depression, addiction, and the inevitable realization that life doesn't always turn out the way you hope. Why watch this show? Because it's a dark comedy that's both hilarious and depressing. Can you believe this is all happening in cartoon form? Like, seriously, this show goes from hilarious to soul-crushing in a split second. It'll make you laugh until you cry. But then you'll cry for real when you realize how messed up everything is. It's a roller coaster, and you're just along for the ride, hoping you don't fall off in the middle of the chaos. If you're looking for a show where you won't stop laughing, but you also won't be able to sleep for days after, BoJack Horseman is your answer. It's an animated show with so many layers, you'll be peeling them back long after the credits roll. And remember, asterisk, it's funny, but it's also a deep, existential crisis in the form of a horse, but you'll love every second of it.